Joining us to discuss the importance of today's meeting and what it could mean for all of Washington and really the country, Seattle University economics professor Brian Kelly. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be back, Joyce.
Well, let's just start with, given our region's reliance on cross-border trade with our very close partner to the north and the supply chains, how do you think Trump's continued tariffs on Canadian goods are going to impact our economy?
It's telling that everyone is seeking exemptions. I was thinking about potash the other day. We get 90% of our potash, which is a crucial fertilizer material, from Canada. So the potash importers are trying to get an exemption. Automobile producers are trying to get exemptions of parts going back and forth. Energy got a partial exemption. All that is very telling in that it shows that these tariffs are causing real damage. The consumers of Canadian imports, such as fertilizer makers, are really being hurt by the tariffs.
And as you know, and as we just mentioned, it is our second biggest trading partner, importing Canada more than $340 billion in goods from the United States, agriculture, energy, aerospace, and so much more. So what happens to businesses, business investment, and job security here in Washington as a result of this?
In Washington State, we import and export, a lot of stuff from Canada, and so the ports are going to be affected somewhat. The border crossings affected. Steel, which I see is showing on the screen right now, is going to be affected in that we do import some steel into our infrastructure projects from Canada. So our taxes will have to go up to pay for the tariffs on imported steel, imported lumber, which is a major import from Canada, all sorts of other imported construction materials that we get from Canada. So it's hard to trace through direct job impacts. Your station has run some very good profiles already on local retailers, for example, who are being hurt by the tariffs. It will take time to shake out how that's all going to play through. But we do know that importers are paying more and it's adding to costs downstream.
And then just for clarity, how realistic is the president's suggestion of annexing Canada as the 51st state? And what does that kind of rhetoric mean for not just our relationship with our closest ally, but its impact on things like tourism, which also bring in millions and millions of dollars to our state?
I'm speaking as a layman here more than an economist, but I think it's obviously a rather terrible thing to be saying in terms of our relationships with the Canadians. One local angle, the Canadians agreed to the dams on the Columbia River. It's 70 years ago now. Those dams and the reservoirs behind them cut right through Canadian communities in southeast British Columbia. And so there was kind of this long-lasting, permanent harm done to Canada, but they agreed partly to be a good neighbor. The St. Lawrence Seaway on the other coast, a very large proportion of our upper Midwest trade goes through the St. Lawrence Seaway, which is almost entirely within Canada. So the Canadians and the U.S. are very, very tied together on all of this. So the rhetoric is damaging. I'm reminded of the 2018 steel tariffs, which since I studied them, so they keep coming to mind. And I was astonished to see when the tariffs went into place. The Canadians were so ticked off about the national security rationale that their export prices actually rose. This is before the tariffs are put in place. Now, no economist was predicting that, but there was this sort of collusive mechanism where the Canadians were so angry with us that they kind of unconsciously cooperated and raised their prices.
One more question. What should we watch for in the coming weeks as world leaders, including the president and the prime minister, prepare to meet for the G7, which is going to be in Alberta, Canada?
I think that President Trump will once again want to stay the center of attention, and the way he does that is by maintaining a certain amount of turmoil, of course. And so I don't think we're going to see resolution on the tariffs, at least the tariffs with the G7 partners. Instead, I think we're going to see hints and kind of quasi proposals and so on, that maybe there's something that can be done about tariffs, and he'll want to be seen as the deal maker. Possibly there will be some stability following the G7, but going up to it, no, I don't see that happening.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. We'll definitely be talking with you between now and then, and certainly after the G7, which is the middle of June. Brian Kelly, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on the show.